Deep dark secret revealed. I am the Overmind. And you can be too. I mean, just check this gameplay out.
Zugzwang Starcraft is the Overmind. He was behind the swarm all along.
That's right, I gotta say I'm so impressed with this modding community. They're definitely going after my heart with this one. I mean, let's be honest, Amon was so all-powerful and cartoony evil, he was kinda cheesy. And don't get me wrong, Kerrigan rocks. But she was always at her best as an anti-hero. You root for Kerrigan, not against her.
On the same page.
The real deal that captures your imagination is the Overmind.
Know that I am the Overmind, the eternal will of the swarm.
Yeah, that guy.
The Hive Cluster is under attack.
So, when I learned there was a way to play the Overmind, I jumped at the chance to share it here. First things first, no, it's not a playable PvP faction from a mod like the Chiron or the UED. At least not quite. What you are seeing is actually a mod of the co-op game within Starcraft 2, meaning the Overmind is in a sense a unique co-op commander, but he plays so differently that it feels like you're playing an entirely unique faction. Second of all, while the faction is in a sense balanced, it's definitely not balanced in the way you are used to. Make no mistake, the Overmind is incredibly powerful, as it should be.
Evolution complete.
The way it works is the co-op games are all set to brutal AI as a default. That makes it challenging enough. And if you like to play co-op by yourself, you'll definitely have your hands full. You can play the Overmind against other players, but if you do, they too will get to play a ridiculously powerful commander as well, so it all kind of evens out in the wash. Oh, and if you're a casual player, there's a practice mode called Proving Ground, in which the AI literally does not attack. It just sits back and waits for you to build waves at your leisure so you can test the Overmind out. That's very thoughtful of the designers. But don't do it more than once, or I will have to call you out and question your mettle. I know, that's both harsh and judgy of me, but try to remember, I am the Overmind. Okay, so with that in mind, let's talk about what you need to know to play the Overmind. The Overmind itself is a structure. It begins as a fully functioning Zerg hive, no evolving required. But it produces larvae at a rate of 1 per second, and you can have up to 18 larvae at one time. But believe it or not, larva production and the beasts that spawn from it turn out to be a mere secondary aspect of the Overlord's toolbox. If you remember your StarCraft 1, you'll remember the Overmind is all about the Cerebrates, the powerful master entities under the Overmind's control that direct the actual Zerg armies. In fact, in the original Zerg campaign, you're actually one of the Cerebrates.
Indeed, you are a testament to my will and the fury of the swarm.
In the mod, the Overmind has 3 different Cerebrates. They cost only 150 minerals, and each one unlocks a major power. You'll eventually want all 3, but since planting one results in a significant cooldown before you can order another one, the exact order you select them in the early game becomes a major strategic decision. The Cerebit Iraq of Clan Jormungand gives you killer defense. It lets you drop turrets at extreme range and even off of creep. They generate their own. You can drop pod them anywhere on the map you have vision, so get your overlords out there. Dropping the base turret, the Sunken Colony, is free. It just has a cooldown to generate a charge, and you can store up to 5 charges at a time. Once you have your base turret, you can evolve it into an air turret, the Spore Colony, or a ground turret, the Sunken Colony, for just 50 minerals each. On most missions, you'll want to spam these babies early like there's no tomorrow. And did I mention there's upgrades to make them even more terrifying? Now, the Cerebrid Dagoth of Clan Tiamat gives you your offense. Here you can order drop pods of elite Zerg units. Even the Zerglings are insane, and there's multiple upgrades for every type of unit. There's the Devouring Ones, the Lings, Hunter-Killers, the Hydras, Tarrasques, the Ultras, Phantomlisks, the Mutas, Erosioners, the Corruptors, and Brood Guardians. You probably guessed what that one was. The only issue is, as good as they are, they're certainly not cheap. But hey, if you want cheap units, How about free? The Zaz Cerebrit of Clan Garm gives you free Banelings and free Scourges on regular intervals governed by a cooldown. These units time out eventually, so you can't let them pool up into a killer death ball. So one of the best tricks here is to use a long-range rally point so they automatically swoop out into combat and don't get wasted while your attention is elsewhere. At least until you get the upgrade that lets you drop pod them instead. At that point, they're like mini nukes. Yes, these units vanish after they deliver their payload, but if you keep adding juicy upgrades, they keep getting more numerous with faster cooldowns and with even deadlier payloads and abilities. And did I mention they're free? But question, I noticed the lack of roaches and overseers, and I assume that's a nod to the fact that the Overmind is from the original Starcraft, not Starcraft 2, where these units first appeared. But if so, how come there are Banelings? Those don't appear until Starcraft 2 as well.
You dare to question my machinations? You are mere mortal! I will have your flesh flayed from your bones! I will drink Mountain Dew from your skull as a cup!
Forgive me, Overmind! Even though you are me, I overstepped my bounds!
As penance, you must now subscribe to this channel and hit the like button at once, that my might will spread like creep across the internet into the feeds of other unwitting Starcraft players.
Of course, Overmind, I will absolutely get on that. So yeah, you can win games with just the Cerebrits alone. But there's more. Yes, it's a free set of steak knives. Most co-op commanders have a Doom button, and the Overmind is no exception. Sitting on a very slow cooldown in the Overmind's tab is the ability to summon a gigantic Leviathan. You know the one with the spine crawlers for fingers, and you can summon it in the middle of the battlefield. Time it right, and you could win the game. It's also timed life, so the strategy that I caught on to eventually is after you use it to save your butt, send it straight into the thick of the enemy so it does as much damage as possible until it's gone. I know it's actually kind of hard to imagine, but it's easy to forget about the Leviathan because he's not on some top panel like other Doom buttons. You have to actually go and select the Overmind and find him kind of hidden amongst all the other stuff in there. Or at least learn his hotkey. Yes, the Leviathan is a he. His name is Herbert. He enjoys murdering Protoss and billiards. Admittedly, though, he is better at the former. Now, remember those 18 one-second larvae? You can, of course, use those to make regular Zerg units. Almost regular, I should say, because they have several key differences. First, they are ridiculously cheap. One of my faves is the gasless Hydra for only 75 minerals. Imagine a cloud of Hydras as your mineral dump. But there's a catch. All units popping out of the Overmind larva are timed life. So send them to their death and make sure to get use out of them before they're gone. But my favorite part is that they spawn instantly, no waiting for them to pop. Those Hydras come as fast as you can pump the H key. So if your Overmind is ever under threat, you can easily summon, say, 5 Ultralisks or 7 Corruptors as bodyguards. You do need an Ultralisk den, though, before you can make Ultras or aspire for those Corruptors, so you still need to make drones and get busy spawning the Zerg tech tree. And here's the rub. Remember those elite units that you can drop pod courtesy of the Dagoth Cerebrit? They cost supply, and the Overmind only has 100 supply, max. Timed life units from the Overmind, though, all cost 0 supply. So if you really want to crank up your army for a big battle, eventually you are going to need to incorporate timed life regular Zerg units into your arsenal. While they pale compared to the elite units, with the right upgrades, they're still pretty decent. Before I forget, I should mention the obvious. Drones made from the Overmind are not timed life. They last forever, as do Overlords. Getting a decent economy is not that hard when you can make a dozen drones all at once. And speaking of Overlords, in the spirit of StarCraft 1, they're detectors. That means you have ample detection right out of the box. So that's the basics. Really, the fancy parts to master are the elite units from the Cerebrits and figuring out which killer upgrades will make them shine the fastest. Now, I did promise that you too can be the Overmind. So here's the lowdown on how to do it. Just don't go mad with power. From your home screen, you're gonna want to select Custom from the ribbon at the top. For this sub-ribbon, you're going to want arcade. Not melee this time, but arcade. If it's your first time playing, you're going to need to type in the name of the mod. That is Nexus Co-op. Pop that into the search bar, and that should bring it up. It used to be you didn't need the dash, but now with the current version, you do. It's no longer Nexus Coupe. Once here, you're just going to hit Create Lobby. And if you're playing solo, you really don't need to worry about anything on this screen. Just click Start Game. A quick countdown takes you to the info screen, which you can read for yourself. And once there, you get to the co-op screen. Of course, you want to select the Overmind, and you'll find a whole bunch of different difficulty levels on the right-hand side, including some that are so tough that you might conclude the Overmind's not very good. But don't do that, because he might find you. So I hereby bequeath the mantle of Overmind, and I pass it over to you, my friend. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did, and let me just say, from my base to yours, Zugzwang out.